Okay, let's see if I can make this work. So I use 2 different thicknesses of tape. I use this pretty thick one, and I use this thinner one. So the first thing I'm going to do, hope you can see this, got my pattern, got my tumbler. I'm going to line it up with the top edge. Okay, so I got this together. I want to kind of line it up so the pattern matches on the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and kind of push my fingers to squeeze it to get as tight as I can get it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 1 inch of my thick tape, and I'm going to put it on the one end, and then I'm going to actually lift up and pull. So I've just got one piece right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually push this so there's barely any pattern showing on the top. This should be pretty tight. It was pretty hard to pull that. Now I'm going to go up a little bit. Go up about another inch. Do that squeezy thing again. Get another piece of tape. I'm going to put it about 1/2 inch away from the other one. And then I'm going to do one more at the top. It doesn't matter if it hangs over the edge or not. But every time I do this, what I'm doing is I put the tape on this first side, and then I actually pull. So I'm always pulling, always trying to make it tight. Sometimes it's easier to actually cut the tape before I tape. All right, so now I'm going to do the bottom half and do the same exact thing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to kind of pull. And if you ever see, so for example, it looks like this one right now has bubbled up a little bit. Maybe it wasn't tight enough. So I'm going to kind of pull the tape off a little bit and pull it again. So you just want this to always look flat. And I'm going to do one more piece. Right here. And pull. And this one looks like it bubbled up a little bit. Probably pulled it a little bit to the angle, so I'm going to fix it. And everything looks nice and smooth. So now what I'm going to do, and this is all the extra taping that I like to do, is I'm going to put tape sideways in these open areas. And the most important thing is to go in the same direction as the paper is overhanging. So, like the paper is going that way when we're pulling it. So I'm going to keep putting the tape from right to left. You always want to, when I'm making it tighter, I always want to do this in the same direction that I've pulled the paper. So I put it down, you can see if I put it down with my thumb and I pull. So it's about as tight as I can get that. And I'm going to do it on all these little open spaces. I'm going to put it down on the one side and pull as hard as I can. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pull as hard as I can. Now I'm going to have to flip it over because it's now in the hard to reach. And now I got to remember I'm going the opposite direction. I'm going to go from left to right because I just flipped it over. So now it's a lot of tape and it's pretty tight. There's a couple more things I'm going to do. One is I take my fingernail and I kind of rub it right on that seam. And then I take my fingernail on the right where the edge meets, and I rub it there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take the back of my scissors and rub, just keep rubbing that seam. Because what you need to do is any place that there's air is where you get those white spots. So now the next thing is the top. So I'm just going to kind of bend it all in just with my hands. So it's just creased on that top. And now I'm going to take a piece of skinny tape. That's enough to go all the way around this tumbler. And again, always go in the same direction that you're pulling the paper. So I can see, turn my chair. So I kind of start at the seam, a little before the seam, and I'm kind of overhanging the edge of the tumbler. If you can see, that's the edge of the tumbler, and the tape goes up a little higher. And what I'm going to do is pull literally as hard as I can. I've ripped this tape before. It's okay if you rip the tape, but you pull this as hard as you can and just go all the way around. So that should be like super, super tight. Oops, sorry. That should be like super, super tight. And then what I'll do is I use my fingernail to make sure that there's no bubbles in that at all. And then sometimes you'll see maybe there'll be a little pucker here, like maybe the paper got a little pucker there. If you see something like that, you would just take a little piece of tape and put it on there and put it on tight to make that go away. You just keep putting on tape. Okay, so the top's good, it's tight. The bottom, what I'm going to do, and actually I should have put one more piece of tape there, so hold on a second. Just going to put one more piece of tape here. You don't really need that, but it makes it a little easier. Okay. So, what I'm going to do on the bottom is I kind of like to have the bottom kind of come out kind of smooth, and sometimes it depends on how long your tumbler is. Sometimes it'll overhang a little bit. That's okay. But what I do is now I do that same thing where I'm bending it all in like that. Now I'm going to take another piece of skinny tape like I did on the, let me turn this. Take another piece of skinny tape like I did on the top. And remember, now you have to go in the opposite direction because it's upside down. So I want to go that way. So same thing, I'm going to kind of have it about, let me see, if you can see, it kind of is half on the bottom on the tumbler and half on the edge. And I'm going to pull it again as tight as I can. And you can, if it's not exactly where you want it, you pick it up and you move it. It's okay. And I get it as tight as I can, and it's kind of overlapping. So now what I'm going to do again is I'm going to go here. See, like there's a little, I can't get it. There's like a little bubble like right there. So I'm just taking my fingernail and I'm pushing all the little bubbles so that the part that's actually touching the tumbler is smooth. So there's no bubbles in there. Now you can probably stop there with the tumbler press, and I'm checking too, and I'm checking the seam and making sure everything looks, always looking for any bubbles anywhere. Is there any bubble, anything that looking like it's not flat? So I've got, now you see it, I mean, it's still all ridgy because it's, you see a lot of ridges because it's not even, but what you don't want is a bubble in the flat part. Now here's my next overkill part. Let me turn this down a little bit. I take enough of the fat tape to go all the way around. And I put it basically lined up with the bottom of that tape I just put on. And again, go in the same direction as the paper. And I pull this really tight. And then I have to kind of pop it up because it keeps wrinkling. But I pop that up. And I put that as tight as I can all the way around. So now you can see it's kind of pulling it all in. And I take my finger and just kind of push the paper against the tape, just so it's not quite as bubbly. Now here's the fun part. Take my scissors and I cut the tape at an angle, at like a 30 degree angle or so. Make little slits about, I don't know, 1/2 inch thick. And I just go all the way around. And I make all these little slits that are about 1/2 inch, or I don't know, 1/4 inch? About 1/4 inch thick. And I just go all the way around. Like I said, I don't know if you need this for a tumbler press. So when I get my tumbler press, I'll try that out. Okay, so now what I've done is I've got all these little slits cut all around here. Now what I'm going to do is sit there one at a time and pull and push that one in, and take the next one and pull. You're kind of ripping the paper too as you go, because the paper is kind of attached to the tape. But I kind of take this and pull it tight and push it down. Pull it tight and push it down. And half these stupid things get stuck. So just keep doing that and go all the way around. This is more helpful if you, like I said, if you have some of the pattern that's going to go over the edge of the paper, edge of the tumbler. Okay. All right, so I've got this. It's all taped around. I'm going to go around again. I'm going to make sure, because there's a couple places that it will bubble up a little bit, that on the tumbler itself, there's no obvious bubbles. There's going to be, you're going to see these little bumpies, but as long as they're up over the edge of the tumbler, we're happy. So you just push those around. You just want to look nice and smooth and no bubbles. Again, if you saw a little bubble, like say if there was a little bubble right here, you could take another piece of tape and pull it tight and take care of that. Now, one extra overkill, if you really want, is I take another piece of skinny tape. And I actually take it and I kind of put it on the top edge. Like, I was trying to show this on the video. Let me see. It's on, I'm kind of pulling it around on this corner, not, so it's kind of on top of the bumpy part, if that makes sense. But I pull that as tight as I can. So it's I've kind of put it on this to hold the edges. It's I just kind of put it angled around here. So now this is pretty much everything's as tight as it can be. What I would do in my case is, because I use an oven, I would put shrink wrap on it. But since you don't need that, you can see you got tape on the bottom. This is very tight. There's no bubbles. This paper is against this as tight as it can be. I was looking at some videos on using a tumbler press, and you'd put it in, I guess, 360 degrees for 60 seconds, and then you'd rotate it 90 degrees or 180 degrees, another 60 seconds, I believe, and then you take it out, put in from about this part into the tumbler, just the edge, for 10 seconds, flip it 10 seconds more, and then do that on the other side too. And hopefully that'll get the edges as well. And Monday I'm getting my tumbler press, so I'll try that too, and eventually see if I need less tape on the tumbler press. But this is a foolproof method that I've never, once I started doing this, I pretty much don't get seams or white spots anymore.